The Straw Hats are still reeling from the loss of Usopp and the crew, and then now there's all this mystery surrounding Nico Robin, and is she good, is she bad?
One Piece, chapter 341, Demon.
You don't mean like Robin, do you?
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome and water-filled and thrilling and just all kinds of mystery and intrigue-filled tale of One Piece. Our last chapter, of course, saw us with really the revelation being that Nico Robin kind of confronted, albeit from a distance, from across one of the waterways, Sanji and Chopper, and said, hey, listen, I am the one that they're looking for. I am the one that's responsible. Thanks for being nice to me and treating me good, even though I didn't deserve it. But after today, we'll never see each other again. And, of course, that doesn't sit well because the chat with Luffy, because as Chopper went and relayed that message, Sanji went around to poke around a little bit, I guess, around Water 7. Chopper went and met up with, of course, with, with Luffy and with Nami and with Zoro and explained what happened. And Luffy was like, what? She said what? So that's how the chapter left off, and that's where the chapter picks up. And this is kind of cool because it shows a few different perspectives from a few different people and what's going on. Initially, we're left off right exactly. We pick up right exactly where we left off, where it's Luffy, Zoro, Chopper, and of course Nami, and they're all sitting around discussing their kind of plan of action, what they're going to do, what they're not going to do, and it's kind of cool because you really see Zoro, who for the most part hasn't really cared much for Robin, and has been very hesitant, very tentative to obviously open up or really even treat her with any type of compassion or kindness. He's the one that goes and kind of sticks up and says, hey, listen. All I'm saying is let's be prepared, okay? Because we don't know which way it's going to go. I'm neutral on this one right now. Maybe, in fact, because they talk about the masked figure that Sanji saw her with and everything else, and they're thinking, and the first thing they're thinking is maybe this person's forcing her to do that, right? Which is what I was thinking. Maybe it's some sort of blackmail. Maybe it's some sort of hostage situation. Maybe they have information on something with the poneglyphs, and they're going to give it to her if she's able to do these despicable deeds, whatever. Don't really know. But Zoro's the one that says, hey, listen, we got to be prepared for the worst. Maybe she's the enemy, maybe she's not, okay? Maybe she's just a victim of circumstance, but maybe she straight up is just an enemy and has gotten herself into some terrible trouble. So, and then they go and they talk about how they're going to go, and they're going to go to the mansion, right? Because they know that she's going to go and try to assassinate and finish the job, you know, actually kill the mayor tonight. So they're like, okay, we'll go there. But they know it's going to be heavily guarded, too, and when the shit hits the fan, the last thing they want to do, they're already wanted by everybody in Water 7, the last thing they want to do is go and expose themselves right there, red-handed. You know, what are people going to think? We're right outside the mayor's mansion, you know? So it's kind of a cool conundrum that they got going on, you know? And it really is one of those things where, I mean, and even somebody mentions, hey, the world government's been looking for her for 20 years and hasn't been able to capture her. What makes you think we're going to have the upper hand on her? And the only thing that they can really come to the conclusion of is that we know where she's going to be tonight, right? So they go and talk about how they're going to go and kind of scout out the area, and Luffy makes the decision. He's like, we're going to go, right? So boom, that's that part of the chapter. We then get to go and see Usopp. We check in with him and haven't really seen much of him at all, except for a panel or two for the last several chapters since everything went down with the fight between him and Luffy. And we see that even despite, of course, everything, the shit about to hit the fan, Aqua Laguna on its way, everybody's trying to close up. He's got a little bit of money, and he's trying to go and buy from a local shop. He's trying to buy some boards, some nails, some tar, some tack, the things that he needs, right? And he's got jack shit for money, and the guy's like, you're not going to have enough money for all that stuff. And Usopp's like, you know, finally the guy agrees. First he doesn't want to sell to him, and then he winds up agreeing, okay, fine, obviously you need this stuff. And I see Usopp's beaten and bandaged and all bruised and everything. And, you know, and he says, how are you going to pay for all this? You didn't have enough money, of course. And Usopp's like, oh, I can trade you tools and this and that. And he's like, really, barter? You know? So then he sends Usopp off, and Usopp is still beaten up, and he's not that strong to begin with. And he's carrying these planks, dragging him, kind of falling down. And the guy goes and stops him. First he says, hey, dude, have your friends come help you. What the hell? You got friends, right? He doesn't know, of course, what's happened and everything else. But this guy, I thought it was cool. You don't know the shopkeeper's name or anything like that, and whether it's important or not, I don't know. But he shows him some kindness. Something that hasn't really been seen a whole lot, obviously, since the shit hit the fan with the rest of the Straw Hats. But luckily, he hasn't been seen or lumped in with them. So this is just a kind, decent person. He goes, he stops him, he gives him some rice balls. He knows
that Usopp's probably hungry. He just looks battered, you know, he looks like a freaking hobo. And so I thought that was nice, shows him some kindness. Usopp gets back to the ship, and he's trying to patch it up, and he's like, oh, it's fine. And he's talking to the ship. He's like, you've been through much worse, you know, flew up in the sky and all this other stuff. You know, like, and I think he doesn't understand the severity of this Aqua Laguna when it comes in. He's just kind of like, it'll be fine, you know, who cares about some water, right? You know, you've dealt with much worse. So we get that portion of it, right? Then we go and we see a brief thing back in Blueno's bar where of course Franky was talking to Kokoro, and Franky just all of a sudden gets up and he's pissed off and he's just like, I want to go destroy something, and he's all pissed. He just wants to get up and leave. Nobody knows why. Even Blueno, the owner, goes and asks Kokoro, what was his deal? And Kokoro's like, I have no idea. You can never tell what idiots are thinking. So, because even his little two sidekick dancers were ever like, what's up, bro? You know, what's going on? And he just all of a sudden wants to go bust some heads, wants to go cause some destruction, what have you, right? And then there's another portion in the chapter as well that goes and shows us, it shows some of the people that are kind of holed up in one of these underground shelters talking about, already you see how shit gets out and how legends grow, right? Just from myth, you know, there's a little bit of truth and there's a lot of bullshit. You know, people are talking about, you know, how big the Straw Hat crew is because it's rumored they're likely to attack again tonight because of, you know, during the confusion in the cast, during the storm, the commotion and whatnot that'll be going on. And one guy's like, well, I heard they got 50 in their crew. Another person's like, 100. I bet you they got 3,000. You know, after all, their captain has 100 million bounty on his head. I'm just like, oh, God, you know. But it's so funny how these rumors can circulate and swirl, and something so small can become something so big in a matter of hours, right? So it's very it's very cool to see that, because that shit happens all the time, you know, in just everyday regular person's life, not in the fictional world of One Piece. So we wind up then going and seeing, and then of course they hear that there's a lot of the Galley company is basically going to be, you know, watching out for the mayor, you know, because of them presuming there's going to be this second assassination attempt. So you see out in front of his mansion, they're just like shoulder to shoulder, like hundreds standing there, and there's like somebody directing them, and it's like, don't let anybody, don't even let a rat get by, you know. And then they show outside the mayor's door, and boom, he's got you know, his 5 foremen from the Galley company, you know, Tilestone and Paulie, and sometimes I forget their names. I don't really forget them, but it's just when I'm trying to think of it in the heat of the moment, I can't think of, you know, Rob Lucci, Paulie, Tilestone, Kaku, and that one other guy. Oh, yeah, Lulu. Anyway, I did wind up getting them. So they're standing 5 across, or sitting 5 across in front of his door, you know, just chilling. And then they go and they show inside his room, and he's like this, he's talking to Kalifa, and Iceberg's like, I don't need all this. It's like I'm a king, you know? And she goes, listen, everybody's here of their own free will. They're here of their own volition. You know, he didn't ask anybody to be there, but they all care about him that much. They don't want to see something happen to him, obviously. And he's kind of, he's like humbled by it, because he's like, you know, what the hell? It's like I'm being treated like I'm some kind of king. Anyway, she's like, why do you have a poster, the wanted poster of Nico Robin up here in your room, you know? And he's like, why? Does it bother you? And she says, yeah, a little, you know? I mean, obviously this is the woman that attempted, you know, to kill you. So, nonetheless, though, he goes and he says, don't worry about it, you know? He says, better I not explain it to you, you know? This one is a demon. And that's all we kind of get from that, you know? And I thought it was neat to go and see, obviously, too, and hear from the Straw Hats when they were trying to figure this out, that, you know, maybe somebody's forcing Robin to do this, but there's obviously some masked figure that could be anybody that's certainly working with her. And then, of course, this CP9, too, kind of all plays into sort of like this Black Ops, I don't know, you know what I mean? Maybe like a CIA or something like that, like a Black Ops Underground, sort of like, you know, you didn't know we were there sort of thing, you know? But anyway, the last page of the chapter, it's Luffy and Zoro and Nami and Chopper. Sanji, of course, is still somewhere abouts in the city, and they're kind of scoping things out from across the street from the distance and talking about how they're going to cause some kind of distraction or commotion, and Luffy is going to go, you know, you stretch out and be able to just fling himself over there, right? And then the last panel of the last page, we see from another vantage point, from another angle, we see a high heel in shadows over there, and you think, well, that's probably Robin's sexy ass, right? And, man, just good stuff. The mystery, the intrigue. Oh, my God. Can't wait to dive into the next one. So, my chapter question for you, though, brothers and sisters, is ultimately, I guess, what were your thoughts on, it seems like, God, it almost seems like he knows, it seems like Iceberg knows more than he's letting on, and obviously he does, because whatever he's protecting, he believes the world government's after, he believes the Straw Hats are after. But I guess my question for you, though, is what are your thoughts on Iceberg himself and what he may or may not be hiding? Is it just me looking too much into things, or does it seem a little bit fishy that he's so fixated on this poster of his attempted murderer, and he took an interest in Nico Robin before she even did this and everything? So there's a lot more than meets the eye here, and honestly, I think the lipstick is coming off the pig here with this fella, and you know, I don't want to be the guy that sticks his dick in the punch bowl, but nonetheless, just kind of wondering what your thoughts are on the mayor and kind of what he may or may not be hiding or letting on to or alluding to or what have you.
Leave your answer to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you in the next one, nation.
Follow me over on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and even my other channel.